Homagyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Dhena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Welcome back, everybody. Continuing our reading of Bhagavatam that Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur asked his disciples to read at least 100 times. So, I don't know what number you're on, 2, 5, 7, 12, or whatever. We've got a few more cycles to go. So live long and keep reading. We're taking up where we left behind, more comfortable than life on Earth. The heavenly planets are not pure, your beloved, or free from the taint of material existence. The heavenly planets are also temporary, and therefore they're not the goal of life. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, however, has never been anxiety. Consequently, for your own benefit and self-realization, you must worship the Lord with great devotion, as described in the revealed scriptures. Purport. As stated, Shine Punye Martya Lokam Vishanti. Even if one is promoted to the higher planetary systems by performing great sacrifices, which are accompanied by the sinful acts of sacrificing animals, the standard of happiness in Swargaloka is also not free of disturbances. Similar struggle for existence even for the king of heaven, Indra. Thus there is no practical benefit in promoting oneself to the heavenly planets. Indeed, from the heavenly planets one must return to this earth after one has exhausted the results of his pious activities. In the Vedas it is said, Tad yati ha karma jito loka shiyate evam udra. As the material positions we acquire here by hard vanquished in due course of time, one's residence in the heavenly vanquished. According to one's activities in different degrees, one obtains different standards of life, but none of them are permanent, and therefore they are all impure. Consequently, one should not endeavor to be promoted system, only to return to this earth or descend still lower to the hellish planets. To stop the cycle of going up and coming down, one must take to Krishna consciousness. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu therefore said, the living entity is rotating in the cycle of birth and death. But if by the grace of Krishna one is fortunate enough to meet a guru, it is a clue to returning home back to Godhead. Having achieved self-realization, one take to Krishna consciousness for self-realization.
41. A materialistic person he acts for economic development, but again and again he is frustrated with material activities. The results one obtains are inevitably the opposite of those desires. Purport. He has ever achieved the result he desired from material activities. On the contrary, everyone has been frustrated again and again. Therefore, one must not waste his time in such material nationalists, economists, and other ambitious persons have tried individually or collectively all been frustrated. For individual and collective economic development, but they have all failed. This is the nature, as clearly explained in the next verse. Text 42. Materialist desires to achieve happiness and diminish his distress, and therefore he acts accordingly. Actually, how as soon as one begins his activities for happiness, his conditions. Purport. I'll read that again. This is too good. Desires to achieve happiness and diminish it accordingly. Actually, however, one is happy, does not endeavor for happiness. Happiness is conditioned. The soul is bound to the laws of material nature, as described in Bhagavad Gita. One is achieved a certain type of body given by material nature, according to the instructions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Ishvara
Amayam sarvabhutani yantrarudha imayaya yantrarudha imayaya.
The Supreme Lord is everyone's heart, O Arjuna, and is directing the wanderings of all living entities who are seated as on a machine made of the material energy. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Supersoul, is present in the heart, and as the living entity desires, the Lord gives him facilities with which to work according to his ambitions in different grades of bodies. The body is just like an instrument by which the living entity moves according to false desires for happiness, and thus suffers the pangs of birth, death, old age, and disease in different standards of life. Everyone begins his activities with some plan and ambition, but actually, from the beginning of one's plan to the end, one does not derive any happiness. On the contrary, as soon as one begins acting according to his plan, his life of distress immediately begins. Therefore, one should not be ambitious to dissipate the unhappy conditions of life, for one cannot do anything about them. Ahankara vimudatma kartahamini mandite. Although one is acting according to false ambitions, he thinks he can improve his material conditions by his activities. The Vedas enjoin that one should not or decrease distress, for this is futile. Economic development. Yet the amount of happiness and distress for which he is destined, one cannot change this. It is better to use one's time for advancement in his spiritual life. One should not waste his valuable life as a human being. It is better to utilize this life for developing Krishna consciousness without ambitions for so-called happiness. Text 43. A living entity desires comfort for his body and makes many plans for this purpose, but actually the body is the property of others. Indeed, the perishable body embraces the living entity and then leaves him aside. Purport. Everyone desires comfort for his body and tries to make a suitable situation for this purpose, forgetting that the body is meant to be eaten by dogs, jackals, or moths, and thus turned into useless stool, ashes, or earth. The living entity wastes his time on real possessions for the comfort of one body after another. Since the body itself is ultimately meant to become stool or earth, what is the meaning of the paraphernalia related to the body, such as wives, residences, wealth, children, relatives, servants, kings, friends, kingdoms, treasuries, and ministers? They are also temporary. What more can be said about this? Text 45. All this paraphernalia is very near and dear as long as the body exists. But as soon as the body is destroyed, all things related to the body are also finished. Therefore, actually, one has nothing to do with them. But because of ignorance, one accepts them as valuable. Compared to the ocean of eternal happiness, they are most insignificant. What is the use of such insignificant relationships for the eternal living being? Purport. Krishna consciousness, devotional service to Krishna, is the ocean of eternal bliss. In comparison, the so-called happiness of society, friendship, and love is simply useless and insignificant. One should therefore not be attached to temporary things. One should take to Krishna consciousness and become eternally happy.
My dear friends, O sons of the Asuras, humanity receives different types of bodies according to his previous fruitive activities. Thus he is seen to suffer with reference to his particular body in all conditions of life, beginning with his infusion into the womb. Please tell me, therefore, after full consideration, what is the living entity's actual interest in fruitive activities, which result in hardship and misery? Purport. Karmana daivani trena chantur deho papattaye. The living entity receives a particular type of body according to his karma, or fruitive activities. The material pleasure derived in the material world from one's particular body is based on sexual pleasure. The entire world is so only for sexual pleasure. To enjoy sexual pleasure and maintain the status quo of material life, one must work very hard, and because of such activities, one prepares himself another material body. Prahlad Maharaj places this matter to his friends, the Asuras, for their consideration. Asuras generally cannot understand that the objects for sexual pleasure, the so-called pleasure of 47. The living entity who has received his present body because of his past fruitive activity may end the results of his actions in this life. But this does not mean that he is liberated from bondage to material bodies. The living entity receives one type of body, and by performing actions with that body, he creates another. Thus he transmigrates from one body to another through repeated birth and death because of his gross ignorance. Purport. The living entity's evolution through different types of bodies is conducted automatically by the laws of nature in bodies other than those of human beings. In other words, by the laws of nature, Prakriti Kriyamanani, the living entity evolves from lower grades of life to the human form. Because of his developed consciousness, however, the human being must understand the constitutional position of the living entity and understand why he must accept a material body. This chance is given to him by nature, but if he nonetheless acts like an animal, what is the benefit of his human life? In this life, one must select the goal of life and act accordingly. Having received instructions from the spiritual master and the Shastra, one must be sufficiently intelligent. In the human form of life, one should not remain foolish and ignorant, but must inquire about his constitutional position. This is called the Tato Brahma Jignasa. The human psychology gives rise to many questions, which various philosophers have considered and answered with various types of philosophy based on mental concoction. This is not the way of liberation. The Vedics to solve the problems of life, one must accept a spiritual master. If one is actually serious in inquiring to material existence, one must approach a bona fide guru. Tadvi pranipatena
Paripratena sevaya Upadekshanti te jnanam Jnaninas tattvadarshinaha Jnaninas tattvadarshinaha Jnaninas tattvadarshinaha.
Just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. Inquire from him submissively and render service unto him. The self-realized soul can impart knowledge unto you because he has seen the truth. Gita 4:34. One must approach a bona fide spiritual master by surrendering himself, pranipatina, and rendering service. An intelligent person must inquire from the spiritual master about the goal of life. A bona fide spiritual master can answer all such questions because he has seen the real truth. These we first consider gain and loss, and then we act. Similarly, an intelligent person must consider the entire process of material existence and then act intelligently, following the directions of the bona fide spirit. 48. The four principles of advancement in spiritual life, dharma, artha, kama, and moksha, all depend on the disposition of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, my dear friends, follow in the footsteps of the devotees. Without desires, fully depend upon the disposition of the Lord. Worship the Super Soul in devotion. Worship Him, the Super Soul. Hare Krishna. Are you comfortable out there?
We don't mind. Whatever's easier for you, Christian.
Well,
Yeah, cheers.
there's chairs inside here.
Let's try this one.
Yeah, right here. You're next to your uncle. Hare Krishna.
These are words of intelligence. Purport.
Purport. These are words of intelligence. Everyone should know that in every stage of life we are dependent upon the Supreme Personality of God. Therefore, the dharma, religion, which we accept, should be that which is recommended by Prahlad Maharaj. Bhagavan. This is the instruction of Krishna. To take shelter of the lotus feet, the rules and regulations of Bhagavata Dharma, devotional service. As far as economic development is concerned, we should discharge our duties, but fully depend on the feet of the Lord for the results. Karmani padikaraste mahaleshu kadachana. You have a right to perform, but you are not entitled to the fruits of action. According to one's position, one should perform his duties, but for the results, one should fully depend upon Krishna. Narottam Das Thakur sings that our only desire should be to perform the duties of Krishna. We should not be misled by the Mimamsa philosophy, which concludes that if we work some automatically, that is not a This is not upon the will of the Supreme Godhead. In service, therefore, the devotee upon the friend Krishna in devotional service. God in Hari, Super Soul. Hari is the soul and the super soul of all living entities. Every living entity is a manifestation of the soul and the material body. The Lord is the most dear, and He is the supreme. Purport. Now that God is the material energy, the spiritual energy. In everyone's heart as the super soul. Although the living entity is the cause of various types of bodies. Ishvara Sarvabhutanam Krishna Mayaya The Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart. are seated as on a machine made of the material energy. The body is just like a machine, a car. The entity is given a chance to sit and move according to his. The original cause of the material body and the soul, which is expanded by his marginal. The Lord is the original cause of the material body and the soul, which is expanded by his marginal energy. The Supreme Lord is the dear living entities. Prahlad Maharaj therefore advised his class friends, the sons of the demons, to take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead again. 50. Devo Suru Manushova. If a demigod, demon, human being, yaksha, gandharva, or anyone within this universe renders service to the lotus feet of Mukunda, who can deliver liberation, he is actually situated in the most auspicious condition of life. Headed by Prahlad Maharaj. That's really nice. Reminds me of that verse, Bejari Unio Tagre, from the first canto, second chapter. That just indicates souls, the Maharajas. Yep. That previously all the great, because he was beyond, they knew him to be beyond the three, the highest benefit. Anyone who follows in the footsteps is eligible for the same results. Similar kind of verse. If a demigod, demon, human, dharma, or anyone within this universe renders service to the lotus feet of Mukunda, who can deliver liberation, he is actually in the most auspicious condition of life, exactly like us, the Mahajanas, headed by Prahlad Maharaj. Purport: Prahlad Maharaj, by his living age in devotional service, whether in demigod society, asura society, human society, every living entity should take shelter of the lotus feet of Mukunda and thus become perfect in good fortune. So there you go.
Except if you're living in paradise.
If you live in paradise, you're not alive anymore. It's a town in Northern California just burned down yesterday.
Oh.
It was named Paradise, but the whole town burned to the ground.
Poetic irony.
It's right in his hometown.
It was only just up the road from where we...
City.
No,
The devotees wrote
The
a
forest fire?
poem called the Yugashika.
Text 51 and 52 to stop the, whatever it is going on. My dear friends, O sons of the demon, O sons of the demon, my dear friends, O sons of the demons, you can be personality of Godhead by becoming perfect brahmanas, demigods, or by becoming perfectly good in etiquette or vast learning. None of these qualifications can awaken the pleasure of the Lord, nor by charity, austerity, sacrifice, cleanliness, or vows can one satisfy the Lord. The Lord is pleased only if one has unflinching, unalloyed devotion to Him. Without sincere devotional service, everything is simply a shoe. I mean, that's a classic verse.
Navritam na bahuyata, nadam na tapomeja, na shaucham na vratanisha, priyate maya bhaktya, hari anya vilambanam.
My
dear friends, O sons of the demons, you cannot please the Supreme Personality of Godhead by becoming brahmanas, demigods, or great saints. or by becoming perfectly good in etiquette. None of these qualifications can of the Lord, nor by charity, austerity, sacrifice, cleanliness, or vows can one satisfy the Lord. The Lord is pleased only if one has unflinching, unalloyed devotion to Him. Everything is simply a show. Purport. Maharaja, that one can become perfect by serving the Supreme Lord sincerely, by all means. Material elevation to life, as a Brahmana, demigod, rishi, and so on, are not the causes for developing of Godhead. But if one sincerely engages in his Krishna consciousness is complete. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 9:30.
Vajate Mamananyapak Sadhureva Samantavya Samyak Vyavasito Hisaha Samyak Vyavasito Hisaha.
Even if one commits the most abominable actions, if he is to be considered saintly because he is properly situated. To develop unalloyed is the perfection of life. Other processes may be helpful, but if one does not develop his love for Krishna, these other processes are simply a way to regard creation are only so much useless labor if they do not provoke attraction of the Supreme Lord. The test of perfection is one's unalloyed devotion to the Lord.
My dear friends, O sons of demons, in the same favorable way that one sees himself and takes care of himself, taking devotional service, without becoming Krishna conscious, when God's mother was in the conditional state and was the wife of a demon, even yakshas, women, birds, and other lower living entities elevated to the Achyuta Gotra, the family of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is the as Krishna falls, when we revive our spiritual consciousness, Krishna consciousness, we never fall again. One says in Bhagavad Gita 4:9, Janakarma the word Achyutata refers to one who never material world. 55. In this material world, to render service to the lotus feet of Govinda, the cause of all causes, and to see him everywhere is the only goal of life. This much alone is the ultimate goal of human life, as explained by all the revealed scriptures. Purport. In this verse, the words Sarvatra Tad Ikshanam describe the highest perfection of devotional service in which one sees everything with reference to Govinda's activities. The highly elevated devotee never sees anything unrelated to Govinda. Stavara Jangama Deke Nadeke Taramurti Sarvatra Nija Ishta Devasmurti. The Mahabhagavata, the advanced devotee, certainly sees everything mobile and immobile, but he does not exactly see their forms. Rather, everywhere he immediately sees manifest the form of the Supreme Lord. Even in this material world, the devotee does not see materially manifested things. Instead, he sees Govinda in everything. When he sees a tree or a human being, a devotee sees them in relation to Govinda. Govinda Madi Purusham. Govinda is the original source of everything. Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchidananda Vigraha Anadi Govinda Sarvakara Karanam Sarvakara Karanam Sarvakara Supreme Control. Eternal. He has no other origin, for he is the prime cause of all causes. The test of a perfect devotee is that he sees Govinda everywhere, even in every atomic particle. This is the perfect vision of a devotee. It is therefore said, Narayana Narayanam Ayam Ira Pashyanti Martina Devotees in the womb.
How do you go?
Reflections? Yes, sir.
In the relationship with Krishna and the comparison is the moon becomes connected with Krishna, who is right there and is readily available to be connected, and then it's like an ocean.
Wonderful. Happy. Other thoughts? Yes.
I appreciated the last chapter. I think it was text where it was talking about how the soul, the affection for the soul is just it's existing. And everybody describing how he saw a calf being born, and so the calf came out. And then he said it like slowly like went like this and like got all the way up. It pumped itself up. As it stood up, the calf found the mother's milk immediately and started drinking. Like out of extreme affection. And with Krishna, complete.
The milk bag right away. So the milkman takes it and puts it in front of the milk bag and then goes. Someone over here. Okay.
Which was the section, Shubhaksiddhanta section?
Prahlad?
That
Dhruva. I can say that it's required. Listen to Dhruva and Prahlad again and again and again. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur told his disciples. Anything else? Yes.
7:54, where Prahlad Maharaj begins, "Oh, my friends, the sons of demons, everyone, including you." I just part everyone, including you, in itself. So it's like it's basically satanic. Like when we're distributing books, it's like, oh, this person won't take it, this person won't take, or this person won't take, but it's like everyone, including you, including you, including you, including you.
Yeah. Very nice. Next chapter.
Okay. Chapter 8. Lord Nrsimhadev, slay king of the demons. Text 1. Narada Muni continued. All the sons of the demons appreciated the transcendental instructions of Prahlad Maharaj and took them very seriously. They rejected the materialistic instructions given by their teachers, Shanda and Amarta. Purport. This is the effect of the preaching of a pure devotee like Prahlad Maharaj. If a devotee is qualified, sincere and serious about Krishna consciousness, and if he follows the instructions of a bona fide spiritual master, as Prahlad Maharaj did when preaching the instructions he had received from Narada Muni, preaching is effective. As it is said in Srimad Bhagavatam 3:25-25, Satam prasangam viryatam vidro yavanti karnasayana. If one tries to understand the discourses given by these sat, or pure devotees, those instructions will be very pleasing to the ear and appealing Thus, if one is inspired to take to Krishna consciousness, and if one practices the process in his life, he is surely successful in returning home, back to Godhead. By the grace of Prahlad Maharaj, all his class friends, the sons of the demons, became Vaishnavas. They did not like hearing from their so-called teachers, Chanda and Amarka, who were interested only in teaching them about diplomacy, politics, economic development, and similar topics meant exclusively for sense gratification. Text 2. When Chanda and Amarka, the sons of Shukracharya, observed that all the students, the sons of the demons, were becoming advanced in Krishna consciousness because of the association of Prahlad Maharaj, they were afraid. They approached the king of the demons and described the situation as it was. Purport. The words Buddhyam Ekanta Samsthitam indicate that as an effect of Prahlad Maharaj's preaching, the students who listened to him became fixed in the conclusion that Krishna consciousness is the only object of human life. The fact is that anyone who associates with a pure devotee and follows his instructions becomes fixed in Krishna consciousness and is not disturbed by materialistic consciousness. The teachers particularly observed this in their students, and therefore they were afraid, because the whole community of students was gradually becoming Krishna conscious. Text 3 and 4. When Hiranyakashipu understood the entire situation, he was extremely angry, so much so that his body trembled. Thus he finally decided to kill his son Prahlad. Hiranyakashipu was by nature very cruel, and feeling insulted, he began hissing like a snake trampled upon by someone's foot. His son Prahlad was peaceful, mild, and gentle. His senses were under control, and he stood before Hiranyakashipu with folded hands. According to Prahlad's age and behavior, he was not to be chastised. Yet with staring, crooked eyes, Hiranyakashipu rebuked him with the following harsh words. Purport. When one is impudent toward a highly authorized devotee, one is punished by the laws of nature. The duration of his life is diminished, and he loses the blessings of superior persons and the results of pious activities. Hiranyakashipu, for example, had achieved such great power in the material world that he could subdue practically all the planetary systems in the universe, including the heavenly planets, Swargaloka. Yet now, because of his mistreatment of a Vaishnava as Prahlad Maharaj, of such a Vaishnava as Prahlad Maharaj, all the results of his tapasya diminished. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam 10.4.46, Ayur Shriyam Yasho Dharmam Lokam Ashishayevracha Anti Shriyam Sisarvani Pumso Mahat Adikrama. When one mistreats great souls, his lifespan, opulence, reputation, religion, possessions, and good fortune are all destroyed. Text 5.
Is somebody on your phone? That iPad is open like somebody's there.
No.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah, there's nobody on the phone.
Then if you hit the...
Hiranyakashipu said, O most impudent, most unintelligent disruptor of the family, O lowest of mankind, you have violated my power to rule you, and therefore you are an obstinate fool. Today I shall send you to the place of Yamaraj. Purport. Hiranyakashipu condemned his Vaishnava son Prahlad for being durvinita, ungentle, uncivilized, or impudent. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, however, has derived the meaning from this word, durvinita, by the mercy of the goddess of learning, Saraswati. He says that du refers to this material world. This is confirmed by Lord Krishna in his instruction in Bhagavad Gita that this material world is dukhalayam, full of material conditions. V means vishesha, Specifically, and Nita means brought in. By the mercy of the Supreme Lord, Prahlad Maharaj was especially brought to this material world to teach people how to get out of the material condition. Lord Krishna says, Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata. When the entire population, or part of it, becomes forgetful of its own duty, Krishna comes. When Krishna is not present, the devotee is present, but the mission is the same, to free the poor conditioned souls from the clutches of the Maya that chastises them. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur further explains that the word mandatman means manda, very bad, or very slow in spiritual realization. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam, mandat sumando matayo mandabhagya. Prahlad Maharaj is the guide of all the mandas, or bad living entities, who are under the influence of Maya. He is the benefactor, even of the slow and bad living entities in this material world. Hula Veda Kanadama. By his actions, Prahlad Maharaj made great personalities who established big families seem insignificant. Everyone is interested in his own family and in making his dynasty famous. But Prahlad Maharaj was so liberal that he made no distinction between one living entity and another. Therefore, he was greater than the great Prajapatis who established their dynasties. The word stabda means obstinate. A devotee does not care for the instructions of the asuras. When they give instructions, he remains silent. The devotee cares about the instructions of Krishna, not those of demons or non-devotees. He does not give any respect to a demon, even though the demon be his father. Much chasanod vidam. Prahlad Maharaj was disobedient to the orders of his demoniac father. Yamak chayam. Every conditioned soul is under the control of Yamaraj. But Hiranyakashipu said that he considered Prahlad Maharaj his deliverer, for Prahlad would stop Hiranyakashipu's repetition of birth and death. Because Prahlad Maharaj, being a great devotee, was better than any yogi, Hiranyakashipu was to be brought among the society of bhakti yogis. Thus, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has explained these words in a very interesting way, as they can be interpreted from the side of Saraswati, the mother of learning.
Take 6. My son Prahlad, you rascal, you know that when I was angry, all the planets are angry. My son Prahlad, you rascal, you know that when I am angry, all the planets of the 3 worlds tremble, along with their chief rulers. But by whose power has a rascal like you become so impudent that you appear fearless and overstep my power to rule you? Purport: the relationship between a pure devotee and the Supreme Personality of God is extremely relishable. A devotee never claims to be very powerful himself. Instead, he fully surrenders to the lotus feet of Krishna, being confident that in all dangerous conditions, Krishna will protect his devotee. Krishna himself says in Bhagavad Gita 9:31, Kauntaya pratijani yame bhakta pranashyati. O son of Kunti, declare boldly that my devotee never perishes. The Lord requested Arjuna to declare this instead of declaring it himself, because sometimes Krishna changes his view, and therefore people might not believe him. Thus Krishna asked Arjuna to declare that a devotee of the Lord is never vanquished. Hiranyakashipu was perplexed about how his 5-year-old boy could be so fearless that he did not care for the order of his very great and powerful father. A devotee cannot execute the order of anyone except the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is the Hiranyakashipu could understand that this boy must have been very powerful, since the boy did not heed his orders. Hiranyakashipu asked his son, Kimpala, how have you overcome my order? By whose strength have you done this? Kimpala. 7. Prahlad Maharaj said, "My dear king, the source of my strength, of which you are asking, is the source of yours. Indeed, the original source of all kinds of strength is one. He is not only your strength or mine, but the only strength for everyone. Without him, no one can get any strength, whether moving or not moving, superior or inferior. Everyone, including Lord Brahma, is controlled by the strength of the Supreme Personality of Godhead." Purport. Gita 10:41. Yad yad vibhuti vatsattvam Srimad ujitam eva va Tata eva bhagachattvam Mama tejam sambhavam Mama tejam Know that all beautiful, glorious, and mighty creations spring from but a spark of my splendor. This is confirmed by Prahlad Maharaj. If one sees extraordinary strength or power anywhere, it is derived from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. To give an example, there are different grades of fire, but all of them derive heat and light from the sun. Similarly, dependent on the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One's only duty is to surrender, for one is a servant and cannot independently attain the position of master. One can attain the position still a mudha. In other words, he is not very intelligent. The mudhas, the asses, who do not have this intelligence, cannot surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Understanding the subordinate position of the living entity takes millions of births. When one is actually wise, he surrenders unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 7:19, Bahunam janmanam ante jnanamama prapadyate vasudeva sarvamiti samahatma samahatma sudurlabha samahatma. After many births and deaths, he who surrenders unto me, knowing me to be the cause of all causes and all that is. Such and therefore he completely surrendered unto the lotus feet of the Lord. He was confident that Krishna would give him protection under all circumstances. We read earlier. Did anybody recognize him?
This is
That's it. And I gave class on the other one, right? What?
Laughed along with class.
We just laughed. How far ahead we look like we're behind. Text number 8. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the supreme control factor, is the senses, the power and the force of the senses. Probably I was reading a letter where Prabhupada was advising that you read one verse a day from the Bhagavatam. He said you'll finish the whole thing in like 50 years, and that'll be sufficient, for one lifetime. And then you can start again, he said, but like in a lifetime of a devotee, if you read one verse a day, finish the whole Bhagavatam.
The original Be a Sage page by page.
Original page, we should put that one in there. One verse a day. Maybe it's in there. Here's what you want to take to read this. 50. One verse a day.
I was looking at it the other day. I think it is.
It has that? Let's check the
At least 50 a day one. Is in my.
Oh, that's in your offering.
You want to find it right here. You want to know what it is?
What's it, 20?
Yeah.
You want to know what it is?
Goes up to
And I
29.
You want to
insist.
know what it is? You insist? Well, I'll tell you. What it is.
We can break till we hear. That's it?
That's it.
How many verses how many pages you gotta read?
Because it also says 2 and 21ers. You need a
I
decimal
guess they
place.
figure, much of a slide.
almost 50,000 verses.
This was a lecture.
50,000 verses for Jesus.
This was a lecture. Yeah. Vidura, particularly enlightened Dhritarashtra, and to the higher status of mission. The duty of the enlightened souls to deliver the fallen ones. And the talks of spiritual enlightenment are so refreshing that while instructing Dhritarashtra, Vidura attracted the of spiritual realization. The message should be heard attentively. Soul, it will act on the soul, and by continuing. Therefore, Shavanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam Padasevanam. This should be followed. We have got now so many books. Simply, if we read books, our Yogeshwar Prabhu is very easy to read books. One should read books and others should hear. That is very essential, Shravana. The more you hear, we have got so many books. Whatever is already published, just like we are discussing one verse daily, so at least there are so many verses already in stock. You can go on speaking for 50 years. These books already published, you can go on. There will be no want of stock. So this practice should be adopted. Don't waste time. As much as possible, try to the transcendental subject matter. Bhagavatam. Yad Vaishnavana Priyam. It is said that it's very, very dear to the Vaishnavas, to the devotees. In Vrindavan you will find they are always reading Srimad Bhagavatam. That is their life and soul. This is 74. And how many? 8 volumes are coming. So now, Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu is the main business. Because we cannot devote 20 hours in hearing and chanting. Therefore, we have extended our activities. But Bhagavatam is so nice if you practice anywhere. Simply by reading, adopt this life more and more. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Another quote where he specifically says that if you read one, it's a calculation. It's not like it's 50 years, but it's, you know what I'm talking about?
I just calculated it's 38 years and a half.
38 years, 18,000 verses.
Well, for calculate the verses, but the books are 14,085 times
Okay.
10.
But you can't miss 1 years.
Or you can read 41 pages a day and read the whole thing in a year.
Yeah.
Here's number 8. Oh, not incorrect. Where are we? Send the brush. We are. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the supreme controller and time factor, is the power of the senses, the power of the mind, the power of the body, and the senses. His influence is unlimited. He is the best of all living entities, the controller of the 3 modes of material nature. By his own power, he creates this cosmic manifestation, maintains it, and annihilates it also. Purport: since the material world is being moved by the 3 material modes, and since the Lord is their master, the Lord can create, maintain. 9. Prahlad Maharaj continued, my dear Father, please give up your demoniac mentality. Don't discriminate in your heart between enemies and friends. Make your mind equipoised toward. Except for the uncontrolled and misguided mind, there is no enemy within this world. When one sees everyone on the platform of equality, one then comes to the position of worshiping the Lord perfectly. Purport: unless one is able to fix the mind at the lotus feet of the Lord, the mind is impossible to control. As 34.
Chachalam hi manah Krishna.
Samak sarvishu bhuteshu madbhaktim labhate param. To understand this is the preliminary condition for entering into the kingdom of that steal away the wealth of the body. These fools were very proud, thinking, I have conquered all enemies in all the 10 jurisdictions. But if a person is victorious over the 6 enemies and is equipoised toward all enemies, enemies are merely imagined by one in ignorance. Support. In the material world, everyone thinks that he has conquered his enemies. Enemies are his uncontrolled mind and 5 senses. Manakshastani prakriti stani karshati. In this material world, originally everyone is a servant of Krishna, but in ignorance, this and thus, through lusty desires, and everyone, but still one thinks himself independent of directions. As many enemies is an ignorant man, whereas one who is in Krishna consciousness knows that there are no enemies but those within oneself, the uncontrolled mind and senses.
Text 11. Hiranyakashipu replied, You rascal, you are trying to minimize my value as if you were better than me at controlling the senses. This is overintelligent. I can therefore understand that you desire that my is indulged in by those about to die. Purport. It is said in the Hitopadesh, Upatesho Himurtana Prakopaya Shantaye. Good instructions are given to a foolish person. He does not take advantage of them, but becomes more and more angry. Prahlad Maharaja's authorized instructions to his father were not accepted by who was. Instead, Hiranyakashipu became increasingly angry at his great son, who was a pure devotee. This kind of difficulty always to first Hiranyakashipu, who were interested in women. The word Hiranya means gold, and Kashipu refers to cushions or good bedding. Moreover, a father does not like to be instructed by his son, especially if the father is a demon. Prahlad Maharaja's Vaisesika directly effective, for because of Hiranyakashipu's excessive jealousy of Krishna and his devotee, he was invited to kill him very quickly. Thus he was expediting his being killed by the Lord himself. Although Hiranyakashipu, he is described here by the added word Shri. Why? The answer is that fortunately he had such a great devotee son as Prahlad Maharaj. Thus, although he was a demon, he would attain salvation and return home, back to Godhead. Text 12. O most unfortunate Prahlad, you have always described a supreme being other than me, a supreme being who is above everything, who is the controller of everyone, and who is all-pervading. But where is he? If he is everywhere, then why is he not present before me in this pillar? Purport. Demons sometimes declare to a devotee that they cannot accept the existence of God because they cannot see him. But what the demon does not know is stated by the Lord himself in Bhagavad Gita 7.25. Naham prakasya sarvasya yogamaya samavritaha. I am never manifest to the foolish and unintelligent. For them I am covered by Yogamaya. The Lord is open to having seen. The Lord is, but non-devotees cannot see him. The qualification for seeing God is stated in Brahma Samhita 538.
Premanjana bhakti vilochanena santas sadaiva hridayeshu vilokayanti.
A devotee who has developed a genuine love for Krishna can always see him everywhere, whereas a demon, not having a clear understanding of the Supreme Lord, cannot see him. When Hiranyakashipu was threatening to kill Prahlad Maharaj, Prahlad certainly saw the column standing before him and his father, and he saw that the Lord was present in the pillar to encourage him not to fear his demoniac father's words. The Lord was present to protect him. Hiranyakashipu marked Prahlad's observation and asked him, "Where is your God?" Prahlad Maharaj replied, "He is everywhere." Then Hiranyakashipu asked, "Why is he not in this pillar before me?" Thus, in all circumstances, the devotee can always see the Supreme Lord, whereas the non-devotee cannot. Prahlad Maharaj has here been addressed by his father as the most unfortunate. Hiranyakashipu because he possessed the property of the universe. Prahlad Maharaj, his legitimate son, was to have inherited this vast property. But because of his impudence, he was going to die at his father's hands. Therefore, the demoniac considered Prahlad the most unfortunate, because Prahlad would not be able to inherit his property. Hiranyakashipu did not know that Prahlad Maharaj was the most fortunate person within the three worlds, because Prahlad was protected by the Godhead. Such are the misunderstandings of demons. They do not know that a devotee is protected by the Lord in all circumstances. Kauntiya pratijanihi pranashyati. Text 13. Because you are speaking so much nonsense, I shall now sever your head from your. Now let me see your most worship. I want to see it. Purport. I always think that the God of the devotees is fictitious. So devotion to God is but an opiate, kind of illusion, like the illusions derived from LSD. Hiranyakashipu believed Prahlad Maharaj when Prahlad asserted the Lord is present everywhere. Because Hiranyakashipu, as a typical demon, was God, and that no one could protect Prahlad. He felt he challenged the idea that the devotee is always protected by the Supreme Lord. Text 14. Being obsessed with Hiranyakashipu, who was very great in bodily strength, thus chastised his exalted devotee son, Prahlad, with harsh words. Cursing him again and again, Hiranyakashipu took up his sword, got up from his royal throne, and with great against the column. From within the pillar came a fearful sound, which appeared to crack the cover of the universe. And there you hear, this sound reached even the bones of the demigods. Like heard it, they thought, "Oh, now our planets are being destroyed." Purport. As we sometimes are very much afraid that the sound of a thunderbolt in our houses will be destroyed, the great gods like Lord Brahma feared the pillar in front of Hiranyakashipu.
We'll be right back here at 5:20. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Haribol. It's been asked with us on this.
the council, the Brahmanas are on the website.
You got everything up here, the banana there.
Yeah.
Usually the second option is easier, but the first one is
We continue our thrilling reading of the Srimad Bhagavatam. We're now on Canto 7, Chapter 8, The Lord Slays the King of the Demons. We're taking up where we left off at the cow break at text number 616. While showing his extraordinary prowess, Hiranyakashipu, who desired to kill his own son, heard that wonderful tumultuous sound which had never been heard before. Upon hearing the sound, the other leaders of the demons were afraid. None of them could find the origin of that sound in the assembly. Purport. In Bhagavad Gita 7.8, Krishna explains himself by saying, Rasaham apsukauteya pravasmi shashishunyayo pranava sarvedeshu shabdake paurusham rishu shabdake paurusham rishu. O son of Kunti Arjuna, I am the taste of water, the light of the sun and the moon, the syllable Om in the Vedic mantras. I am the sound in ether and ability in man. Here the Lord exhibited his presence everywhere by the tumultuous sound in the sky, Shabdake. The tumultuous thundering sound was proof of the Lord's presence. The demons like Hiranyakashipu could now realize the supreme ruling power of the Lord, and thus Hiranyakashipu became afraid. However powerful a man may be, he always fears the sound of a thunderbolt. Similarly, Hiranyakashipu and all the demons who were his associates were extremely afraid because of the presence of the Supreme Lord in the form of sound, although they could not trace out the source of the sound. 17. To prove that the statement of his servant Prahlad Maharaj was substantial. In other words, to prove that the Supreme Lord is present everywhere, even within the pillar of an assembly hall. The Supreme Personality of Godhead Hari exhibited a wonderful form never before seen. The form was neither that of a man nor that of a lion. Thus the Lord appeared in his wonderful form in the assembly hall. Purport. When Hiranyakashipu asked Prahlad Maharaj, "Where is your Lord? Is he present in this pillar?" Prahlad Maharaj fearlessly replied, "Yes, my Lord is present everywhere." Therefore, to convince Hiranyakashipu that the statement of Prahlad Maharaj was unmistakably true, the Lord appeared from the pillar. The Lord appeared as half lion and half man, so that Hiranyakashipu could not understand whether the great giant was a lion or a human being. To substantiate Prahlad's statement, the Lord proved that his devotee, as declared in Bhagavad Gita, is never vanquished. Kaunteya pratijanihi name bhakta pranashyati. Prahlad Maharaj's demoniac father had repeatedly threatened to kill Prahlad, but Prahlad was confident that he could not be killed, since he was protected by the Supreme Lord. By appearing from the pillar, the Lord encouraged his devotee, saying in effect, "Don't worry, I am present here." By manifesting his form as the Shunhade, the Lord also preserved the truth of Lord Brahma's promise that Hiranyakashipu was not to be killed by any animal or any man. The Lord appeared in a form that could not be said to be fully a man or a lion. 18. While Hiranyakashipu looked all around to find the source of the sound, that wonderful form of the Lord, which could not be ascertained to be either a man or a lion, emerged from the pillar. In amazement, Hiranyakashipu wondered, "What is this creature that is half man and half lion?" Purport: a demon cannot calculate the unlimited potency of the Supreme Lord. As stated in the Vedas, Parasya Shaktir Vigataya Shriyate Sabhakiya. The different potencies of the Lord are always working as an automatic exhibition of his knowledge. For a demon, it is certainly wonderful that the form of a lion and the form of a man can be united, since a demon has no experience of the inconceivable power for which the Supreme Lord is called all-powerful. Demons cannot understand the omnipotence of the Lord. They simply compare the Lord to one of them. Avajananti ma Mudhas, rascals, think that Krishna is an ordinary human being who appears for the benefit of other human beings. Parambhavajananta. Fools, rascals, and demons cannot understand the supreme potency of the Lord.
Can't realize?
Okay. Fools, rascals, and demons cannot realize the supreme potency of the Lord, but he can do anything and everything. Indeed, he can do whatever he likes. When Hiranyakashipu received benedictions from Lord Brahma, he thought that he was safe, since he received the benediction that he would not be killed either by an animal or by a human being. He never thought that an animal and human being would be combined so that demons like him would be puzzled by such a form. This is the meaning of the Supreme Personality of Godhead's omnipotence. Daily, triple double. It's one verse.
Text 19 through 22. Hiranyakashipu studied the form of the Lord, trying to decide who the form of Nrsimhadev standing before him was. The Lord's form was extremely fearsome because of his angry eyes, which resembled molten gold, his shining mane, which expanded the dimensions of his fearful face, his deadly teeth, and his razor-sharp tongue, which moved about like a dueling sword. His ears were erect and motionless, and his nostrils and gaping mouth appeared like caves of a mountain. His jaws parted fearfully, and his entire body touched the sky. His neck was very short and thick, his chest broad and his waist thin, and the hairs on his body were as white as the rays of the moon. His arms, which resembled flanks of soldiers, spread in all directions as he killed the demons, rogues, and atheists with his concho, his club, lotus, and other natural weapons. Text 23. Hiranyakashipu murmured to himself, Lord Vishnu, who possesses great mystic power, has made his plan to kill me. But what is the use of such an attempt? Who can fight with me? Thinking like this, and taking up his club, Hiranyakashipu attacks the Lord like an elephant. Purport. In the jungle there are sometimes fights between lions and elephants. Here the Lord appeared like a lion, and Hiranyakashipu, unafraid of the Lord, attacked him like an elephant. Generally, the elephant is defeated by the lion, and therefore the comparison in this verse is quite appropriate. Text 24. Just as a small insect falls forcefully into a fire, and the insignificant creature becomes invisible, when Hiranyakashipu attacked the Lord, who was full of effulgence, Hiranyakashipu became invisible. This is not at all astonishing, for the Lord is always situated in pure goodness. Formerly, during creation, he entered the dark universe and illuminated it by his spiritual effulgence. Purport. The Lord is situated transcendentally in pure goodness. The material world is generally controlled by tamaguna, the quality of ignorance. But the spiritual world, because of the presence of the Lord and his effulgence, is free from all contamination by darkness, passion, or contaminated goodness. Although there is a tinge of goodness in this material world in terms of the brahminical qualifications, such qualifications sometimes become invisible because of the strong prevalence of the modes of passion and ignorance. But because the Lord is always transcendently situated, the material modes of passion and ignorance cannot touch him. Whenever the Lord is present, there cannot be any darkness from the mode of ignorance. It is stated in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Krishna Surya Sama Maya Ya Krishna Tamam
Nari Maya Adhikaro.
Godhead is light, nations is darkness. Where there is Godhead, there is no nations. The material world is full of darkness and ignorance of spiritual life. But by Bhakti Yoga, this ignorance is dissipated. The Lord appeared because of the Bhakti Yoga exhibited by Prahlad Maharaj. And as soon as the Lord appeared, the influence of Hiranyakashipu's passion and ignorance was vanquished by the Lord's quality of pure goodness, or the Brahman effulgence, became prominent. In that prominent effulgence, Hiranyakashipu became invisible, or his influence became insignificant. An example illustrating how the darkness of the material world is vanquished is given in the Shastra. When Brahma was created from the lotus stem growing from the abdomen of Govardhana Vishnu, Lord Brahma saw everything to be dark. But when he received knowledge from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, everything became clear. As everything becomes clear when one comes from night to sunshine. The important point is that as long as we are in the material modes of nature, we are always in darkness. This darkness cannot be dissipated without the presence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, which is invoked by the practice of Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti Yoga creates a transcendental situation with no tinges of material contamination. 25. Thereafter the great demon, Hiranyakashipu, who was extremely angry, swiftly attacked Nrsingadev with his club and began to beat him. Lord Nrsingadev, however, captured the great demon along with his club, just as Garuda might capture a great snake.
O Yudhishthira, O great son of Bharata, when Lord Nrsingadev gave Hiranyakashipu a chance to slip from his hand, just as Garuda sometimes plays with a snake and lets it slip from his mouth, the demigods who had lost their abodes and who were hiding behind the clouds for fear of the demon did not consider that incident very good. Indeed, they were perturbed. Purport. When Hiranyakashipu was in the process of being killed by Lord Nrsingadev, the Lord gave the demon a chance to slip from his clutches. This incident was not very much appreciated by the demigods, for they were greatly afraid of Hiranyakashipu. They knew that if somehow or other Hiranyakashipu escaped from Nrsingadev's hands and saw that the demigods were looking forward to his death with great pleasure, he would take great revenge upon them. Therefore, they were very much afraid. When Hiranyakashipu was freed from the hands of Nrsingadev, he falsely thought that the Lord was afraid of his prowess. Therefore, after taking a little rest from the fight, he took up his sword and shield and again attacked the Lord with great force. Purport. When a sinful man enjoys material facilities, foolish people sometimes think, how is it that this sinful man is enjoying, whereas a pious man is suffering? By the will of the Supreme, a sinful man is sometimes given the chance to enjoy the material world, as if he were not under the clutches of material nature, just so that he may be fooled. A sinful man who acts against the laws of nature must be punished, but sometimes he is given a chance to play, exactly like Hiranyakashipu when he was released from the hands of Nrsingadev. Hiranyakashipu was destined to be ultimately killed by Nrsingadev, but just to see the fun, the Lord gave him a chance to slip from his hands. 28. Making a loud, shrill sound of laughter, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan, who is extremely strong and powerful, captured Hiranyakashipu, who was protecting himself with his sword and shield, leaving no gaps open. With the speed of a hawk, Hiranyakashipu moved sometimes in the sky, and sometimes on the earth, his eyes closed because of fear of Nrsingadev's laughter. As a snake captures a mouse when Garuda captures a very venomous snake, Lord Nrsimhadev captured Hiranyakashipu, who could not be pierced even by the thunderbolt of King Indra. As Hiranyakashipu moved his limbs here and there and all around, very much afflicted at being captured, Lord Nrsimhadev placed the demon on his lap, supporting him with his thighs, and in the doorway of the assembly hall, the Lord very easily tore the demon to pieces with the nails of his hand. Purport: Hiranyakashipu had received from Lord Brahma the benediction that he would not die in the land or in the sky. Therefore, to keep the promise of Lord Brahma intact, Nrsimhadev placed Hiranyakashipu's body on his lap, which was neither land nor sky. Hiranyakashipu had received the benediction that he would not die either during the day or at night. Therefore, to keep this promise of Brahma, the Lord killed Hiranyakashipu in the evening, which is the end of day and the beginning of night, but is neither day nor night. Hiranyakashipu had taken a benediction from Lord Brahma that he would not die from any weapon or be killed by any person, dead or alive. Therefore, just to keep the word of Lord Brahma, Lord Nrsimhadev pierced Hiranyakashipu's body with his nails, which were not weapons, and were neither living nor dead. Indeed, the nails can be called dead, but at the same time, they can be said to be alive. To keep intact all of Lord Brahma's benedictions, Lord Nrsimhadev paradoxically, but very easily, killed the great demon, Hiranyakashipu. 30. Lord Nrsimhadev's mouth and mane were sprinkled with drops of blood, and his fierce eyes, full of anger, were impossible to look at. Licking the edge of his mouth with his tongue, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Nrsimhadev, decorated with a garland of intestines taken from Hiranyakashipu's abdomen, resembled a lion that had just killed an elephant. Purport: the hair on Lord Nrsimhadev's face, being sprinkled with drops of blood, was reddish and looked very beautiful. Lord Nrsimhadev pierced Hiranyakashipu's abdomen with his nails, pulled out the demon's intestines, and wore them as a garland, which enhanced his beauty. Thus the Lord became very fearsome, like a lion engaged in fighting an elephant.
Text 31. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who had many, many arms, first uprooted Hiranyakashipu's heart, and then threw him aside, and turned toward the demon's soldiers. These soldiers had come in thousands to fight with him, with raised weapons, and were very faithful followers of Hiranyakashipu. But Lord Nrsimhadev killed all of them, merely with the ends of his nails. Purport: since the creation of the material world, there have been two kinds of men, the Devas and the Asuras. The Devas are always faithful to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whereas the Asuras are always atheists who defy the supremacy of the Lord. At the present moment, throughout the entire world, the atheists are extremely numerous. They are trying to prove that there is no God and that everything takes place due to combinations and permutations of material elements. Thus, the material world is becoming more and more godless, and consequently, everything is in a disturbed condition. If this continues, the Supreme Personality of Godhead will certainly take action, as he did in the case of Hiranyakashipu. Within a second, Hiranyakashipu and his followers were destroyed. And similarly, if this godless civilization continues, it will be destroyed in a second, simply by the movement of one finger of the Supreme Personality of God. The demons should therefore be careful and curtail their godless civilization. They should take advantage of the Krishna consciousness movement and become faithful to the Supreme Personality of God. Otherwise, they are doomed. As Hiranyakashipu was killed in a second, the godless civilization can be destroyed at any moment. Text 32. The hair on Nrsimhadev's head shook the clouds and scattered them here and there. His glaring eyes stole the effulgence of the luminaries in the sky. His breathing agitated the seas and oceans. Because of his roaring, all the elephants in the world began to cry in fear. Purport. The Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 10:41, Yat yad vibhuti mat sattvam Srimad Bhojitameva Tattadeva Rajachaptam Lamajom Sambhavam. Know that all beautiful spring from but a spark of my splendor. Planets and stars in the sky is but a partial manifestation of fulgence. Wonderful qualities, living ordinary things exist, are but part of contagious, his illumination or brilliance. The deep waves of the seas and oceans, and the many other wonders within the quality of Godhead, when the Lord, in a special feature, incarnates within the world. Everything is insignificant in comparison to his personal, all-defeating, transcendental qualities.
I just want to make a note of interest. Roaring, getting scared away. But what it actually means is all the elephants guarding the quarters. Elephants.
Quickly, I want to do something else interesting in the previous verse. It says that the Sringade tore out his heart, and in the Sanskrit, hrit, whose heart. That was interesting because, Hiranyakashipu is his devotee, actually.
Yeah, he offered a garland.
Is it in there? Anything in the commentary? Yes?
I noticed how Hiranyakashipu was mentioned to fly like with the speed of a hawk, but with closed eyes because he was afraid with the sound of the loud laughing.
Yeah.
Flying closed.
A high shrill laughing. That's pretty scary.
Terrifying. Airplanes were thrown.
Something? What's this?
Art by Vishnu. By the buds of the Lord's nails. The Lord thought, I happily in his heart. But how did this unfortunate person make anger and hatred live there as well?
Whoa.
He pulled out his heart as if to inspect. He used the damage of his heart. The Lord had groups of his followers.
Anything about Dicky Bob?
He mentions that the sky was filled with airplanes disturbed by the upward movement of his mane. I don't see anything about the
Oh,
about.
that's text 32. Nothing, no Dicky Bob?
The directions cried out in fear is wrong. It actually says the directions.
The directions.
Yeah.
Yeah. The elephants in different directions. The directions cried out in fear of the Lord. Tiki Bob. Tiki Bob.
Text 33. Excuse me.
That was profound about the lotus.
That was
That was really,
Can't make this stuff up. That's
no, that's
That's really amazing.
yeah.
Good find, Pranahari.
Very good.
Afterwards, after that,
Can we do the body?
checking what.
How did this happen?
I was living happily.
You look so happily in there. What have you done? You ruined my house. Text 33. Airplanes were thrown into outer space and the upper planetary system by the hair on Nrsingadev's head. Because of the pressure of the Lord's lotus feet, the earth appeared to slip from its position, and all the hills and mountains sprang up due to his intolerable force. Because of the Lord's bodily effulgence, both the sky and all directions diminished in the natural illumination. Purport. That there were airplanes flying in the sky long, long ago can be understood from this verse. Srimad Bhagavatam was spoken 5,000 years ago, and the statements of this verse prove that the symptoms of a very advanced civilization then existed, even in the upper planetary systems, as well as in the lower planetary systems. Modern scientists and philosophers foolishly explain that there was no civilization prior to 3,000 years ago, but the statement of this verse nullifies such whimsical judgments. The Vedic civilization existed millions and millions of years ago. It existed since the creation of this universe, and it included arrangements all over the universe with all the modern amenities and even more. Text 34. Manifesting a full effulgence and a fearsome countenance, Lord Nrsinga, being very angry and finding no contestant to face his power and opulence, then sat down in the assembly hall on the excellent throne of the king. Because of fear and obedience, no one could come forward to serve the Lord directly. Report. When the Lord sat on the throne of Hiranyakashipu, there was no one to detest. No enemy came forward on behalf of Hiranyakashipu to fight with the Lord. This means that his supremacy was immediately accepted by the demons. Another point is that although Hiranyakashipu treated the Lord as his bitterest enemy, he was the Lord's faithful servant in Vaikuntha, and therefore the Lord had no hesitation in sitting on the throne that Hiranyakashipu had so laboriously created. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur remarks in this connection that sometimes, with great care and attention, great saintly persons and rishis offer the Lord valuable seats dedicated with Vedic mantras and tantras, but still the Lord does not sit upon those thrones. Hiranyakashipu, however, had formerly been Jai, the doorkeeper at the Vaikuntha gate, and although he had fallen because of the curse of the Brahmanas and had gotten the nature of a demon, and although he had never offered anything to the Lord as Hiranyakashipu, the Lord is so affectionate to his devotee and servant that he nonetheless took pleasure in sitting on the throne that Hiranyakashipu had created. In this regard, it is to be understood that a devotee is fortunate in any condition of his life.
Yes.
That's pretty good. I mean, that's about as good.
I was starting to get this impression of like, anyway, I'll say.
35. Hiranyakashipu had been exactly like a fever of meningitis in the head of the three worlds. Thus, when the wives of the demigods and the heavenly planets saw that the great demon had been killed by the personal hands of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, their faces blossomed in great joy. The wives of the demigods again and again showered flowers from heaven upon Lord Nrsingadev like rain.
At that time, the airplanes of the demigods, who desired to see the activities of the Supreme Lord Narayana, crowded the sky. The demigods began beating drums and kettle drums, and upon hearing them, the angelic women began to dance. while the chiefs of the Gandharvas sang sweetly. My dear King Yudhishthira, the demigods then approached the Lord. They were headed by Lord Brahma, King Indra, and Lord Shiva, and included great saintly persons in the residence of Pitraloka, Sitaloka, Vidyadharaloka, and the planet of the snakes. The Madhus approached, and so did the chiefs of various other planets. The angelic dancers approached, as did the Gandharvas, the Charnas, and the Yakshas. The inhabitants of Kinnaraloka, the Vitalas, the inhabitants of Kimpurushaloka, and the personal servants of Vishnu, like Sunanda and Kumbhuda. All of them came near the Lord, who glowed with intense light. They individually offered their obeisances and prayers, their hands folded at their heads. Lord Brahma prayed, My Lord, you are unlimited, and you possess unending potencies. No one can estimate or calculate your prowess and wonderful influence, for your actions are never polluted by the material energy. Through the material qualities, you very easily create the universe, maintain it, and again annihilate it, yet you remain the same without deterioration. I therefore offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Purport, the activities of the Lord are always wonderful. His personal servants, Jai and Vijay, were confidential friends, yet they were cursed, and they accepted bodies of demons. Again, in the family of one such demon, Prahlad Maharaj was caused to take birth to exhibit the behavior of an exalted devotee. And then the Lord accepted the body of Nrsingadev to kill that same demon, who, by the Lord's own will, had taken birth in a demoniac family. Therefore, who can understand the Lord's transcendental activities? Not to speak of understanding the transcendental activities of the Lord, no one can understand even the activities of his servants. In Chaitanya Charitamrita it is said, Tar Bhakya Kriya Mudra Vigne Na Hujaj. No one can understand the activities of the Lord's servants. Therefore, what to speak of the activities of the Lord? Who can understand how Krishna is benefiting the entire world? The Lord is addressed as Duranta Shakti, because no one can understand his potencies and how he acts.
41. Lord Shiva said, the end of the millennium is time for your anger. Now that this insignificant demon, Hiranyakashipu, has been killed, O my Lord, who are naturally affectionate to your devotee, kindly protect his son, Prahlad Maharaj, who is standing nearby as your fully surrendered devotee. Purport. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the creator of the material world. There are three processes in creation, namely creation, maintenance, and finally annihilation. During the period of annihilation, at the end of each millennium, the Lord becomes angry, and the part of anger is played by Lord Shiva, who is therefore called Rudra. When the Lord appeared in great anger to kill Hiranyakashipu, everyone was extremely afraid of the Lord's attitude. But Lord Shiva, knowing very well that the Lord's anger is also his Leela, was not afraid. Lord Shiva knew that he would have to play the part of anger for the Lord. Kala means Lord Shiva, Bhairava, and Kopa refers to the Lord's anger. These words, combined together as Kopa Kala, refer to the end of each millennium. Actually, the Lord is always affectionate toward his devotees, even though he may appear very angry, because he is Avyayatma, because he never falls down. Even when angry, the Lord is affectionate toward his devotees. Therefore, Lord Shiva reminded the Lord to act like an affectionate father toward Prahlad Maharaj, who was standing by the Lord's side as an exalted, fully surrendered devotee. Text 42. King Indra said, O Supreme Lord, you are our deliverer and protector. Our shares of sacrifices, which are actually yours, have been recovered from the demon by you. Because the demoniac king Hiranyakashipu was most fearsome, our hearts, which are your permanent abode, were all overtaken by him. Now by your presence, the gloom and darkness in our hearts have been dissipated. O Lord, for those who always engage in your service, which is more exalted than liberation, all material opulence is insignificant. They do not even care for liberation, what to speak of the benefits of Kama, Artha, and Dharma. Purport. In this material world, there are two kinds of people: the Devatas, demigods, and the Asuras, demons. Although the demigods are attached to material enjoyment, they are devotees of the Lord, who act according to the rules and regulations of the Vedic injunctions. During the reign of Hiranyakashipu, everyone was disturbed in the routine duties of Vedic civilization. When Hiranyakashipu was killed, all the demigods, who had always been disturbed by Hiranyakashipu, felt relief in their general way of life. Because the government in Kali Yuga is full of demons, the living conditions of devotees are always disturbed. Devotees cannot perform yajna, and thus they cannot partake of the remnants of food offered in yajna for the worship of Lord Vishnu. The hearts of the demigods are always filled with fear of the demons, and therefore they cannot think of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The engagement of the demigods is to think of the Lord always within the core of their hearts. The Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 6:47, Yoginam api sarvisham madgatena pratmana shataman bhajate yomam same yukta tamomataha same yukta tamomataha same yukta tamomataha. And of all yogis, he who always abides in me with great faith, worshipping me in transcendental loving service, is most intimately united with me in yoga and is the highest of all. The demigods fully absorb themselves in meditation upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead to become perfect yogis, but because of the presence of demons, their hearts are filled with the activities of the demons. Thus their hearts, which are meant to be the abode of the Supreme Lord, are practically occupied by the demons. All the demigods felt relieved when Hiranyakashipu was dead, for they could easily think of the Lord. They could then receive the results of sacrifices and become happy, even though in the material world. Text 43. All the saintly persons present offered their prayers in this way. O Lord, O Supreme Maintainer of those sheltered at your lotus feet, O Original Personality of Godhead, the process of austerity and penance in which you instructed us before is the spiritual power of your very self. It is by austerity that you create the material world, which lies dormant within you. This austerity was almost stopped by the activities of this demon, but now, by yourself appearing in the form of Nrsimhadev, which is meant just to give us protection, and by killing this demon, you will again approve the process of austerity. Purport. The living entities wandering within the jurisdiction of the 8,400,000 species of life get the opportunity for self-realization in the human form, and gradually in such other elevated forms as those of the demigods, Kinnaras and Charanas, as will be described below. In the higher statuses of life, beginning from human life, the main duty is tapasya, or austerity. As Rishabhadev advised his sons, Tapo divyam putrikad in satvam shudayat. To rectify our material existence, austerity, tapasya, is absolutely necessary. However, when people in general come under the control of a demon or a demoniac ruling power, they forget this process of tapasya and gradually also become demoniac. All the saintly persons who were generally engaged in austerity felt relieved when Hiranyakashipu was killed by the Lord in the form of Nrsimhadev. They realized that the original instruction concerning human life that it is meant for tapasya, for self-realization, was reaffirmed by the Lord when he killed Hiranyakashipu. Text 44. The inhabitants of Pitriloka prayed, "Let us offer our respectful obeisances unto Lord Nrsimhadev, the maintainer of the religious principles of the universe. He has killed Hiranyakashipu, the demon, who by force enjoyed all the offerings of the Shraddha ceremonies performed by our sons and grandsons on the anniversaries of our death, and who drank the water with sesame seeds offered in holy places of pilgrimage. By killing this demon, O Lord, you have taken back all this stolen property from his abdomen by piercing it with your nails. We therefore wish to offer our respectful obeisances unto you." Purport. It is the duty of all householders to offer food grains to all their departed forefathers. But during the time of Hiranyakashipu, this process was stopped. No one would offer Shraddha, oblations of food grains to the forefathers with great respect. Thus, when there is a demoniac rule, everything concerning the Vedic principles is turned upside down. All the religious ceremonies of yajna are stopped. The resources meant to be spent for yajna are taken away by the demoniac government. Everything becomes chaotic, and consequently the entire world becomes hell itself. When the demons are killed by the presence of Nrsimhadev, everyone feels comfortable, irrespective of the planet upon which he lives. I mean, just look what's happening to the earth today. In California, you're literally burning down. Hell. Text 45. The inhabitants of Siddhaloka prayed, "O Lord Nrsimhadev, because we belong to Siddhaloka, we automatically achieve perfection in all 8 kinds of mystic power. Yet Hiranyakashipu was so dishonest that by the strength of his power and austerity, he took away our powers. Thus he became very proud of his mystic strength. Now, because this rogue has been killed by your nails, we offer our respectful obeisances unto you." Purport. On earth there are many yogis who can exhibit some feeble mystic power by manufacturing pieces of gold like magic. But the inhabitants of the planet Siddhaloka are actually extremely powerful in mysticism. They can fly from one planet to another without airplanes. This is called Lagima Siddhi. They can actually become very light and fly in the sky. By a severe type of austerity, however, Hiranyakashipu excelled all the inhabitants of Siddhaloka and created disturbances for them. The residents of Siddhaloka were also beaten by the powers of Hiranyakashipu. Now that Hiranyakashipu had been killed by the Lord, the inhabitants of Siddhaloka also felt relieved.
The inhabitants of Yataraloka prayed, "Our acquired power to appear and disappear in various ways, according to varieties of meditation, was banned by that foolish Hiranyakashipu because of his pride in his superior bodily strength and his ability to conquer others. Now the Supreme killed him, just as if the demon were an animal. Unto that supreme pastime, form of Lord Nrsimhadev, we eternally offer our respectful obeisances." 47. The inhabitants of Nagaloka said, "The most sinful Hiranyakashipu took away all the jewels on our heads, on our hoods, and all our beautiful wives. Now, since his chest has been pierced by your nails, you are the source of all pleasure to our wives. Thus, we together offer our respectful obeisances unto you." Purport. No one is peaceful if his wealth and wife are forcibly taken away. All the inhabitants of Nagaloka, which is situated below the earthly planetary system, were in great anxiety because their wealth had been stolen and their wives kidnapped by Hiranyakashipu. Now Hiranyakashipu having been killed, their wealth and wives were returned, and their wives felt satisfied. The inhabitants of various lokas or planets offered their respectful obeisances unto the Lord, because they were relieved by the death of Hiranyakashipu. Disturbances similar to those created by Hiranyakashipu are now taking place all over the world because of demoniac governments. As stated in the 12th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, the men of the governments of Kali Yuga will be no better than rogues and plunderers. Thus the populace will be harassed, on one side by scarcity of food, and on the other by heavy taxation by the government. In other words, the people in most parts of the world in this age are harassed by the ruling principles of Hiranyakashipu. 48. All the Manus offered their prayers as follows. As your order carriers, O Lord, we, the Manus, are the lawgivers for human society. But because of the temporary supremacy of this great demon, Hiranyakashipu, our laws for maintaining Varnashrama Dharma were destroyed. O Lord, now that you have killed this great demon, we are in our normal condition. Kindly order us, your eternal servants, what to do now. Purport: in many places in Bhagavad Gita, the Supreme Lord Krishna refers to the Varna Ashrama Dharma, or of 4 Varnas and 4 Ashramas. He teaches people about this Varnashrama Dharma so that all of human society can live peacefully by observing the principles for the 4 social divisions and 4 spiritual divisions, Varna and Ashrama, and thus make advancement in spiritual knowledge. The Manus compiled the Manu Samhita. The word Samhita means Vedic knowledge, and Manu indicates that this knowledge is given by Manu. The Manus are sometimes incarnations of the Supreme Lord and sometimes empowered living entities. Formerly, many long years ago, Lord Krishna instructed the sun god. The Manus are generally sons of the sun god. Therefore, while speaking to Arjuna about the importance of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Imam vivashvate yogam kukavanam avyayam vivashvanavade praha. This instruction was given to Vivashwan, the sun god, who in turn instructed his son Manu. Manu gave the law known as Manu Samhita, which is full of directions based on Varna and Ashrama concerning how to live as a human being. These are very scientific ways of life, but under the rule of demons like Hiranyakashipu, human society breaks all these systems of law and order and gradually becomes lower and lower. Thus, there is no peace in the world. The conclusion is that if we want real peace and order in human society, we must follow the principles laid down by the Manu Samhita and confirmed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna. 49. The Prajapatis offered their prayers as follows. O Supreme Lord, Lord of even Brahma and Shiva, we, the Prajapatis, were created by you to execute your orders, but we were forbidden by Hiranyakashipu to create any more good progeny. Now the demon is lying dead before us, his chest pierced by you. Let us therefore offer our respectful obeisances unto you. Let us therefore offer respectful obeisance unto you, whose incarnation in this form of pure goodness is meant for the welfare of the entire universe. Shagamaya Sakhamurti Bhaktava. Of Gandharva Lordship, we ever engaged in your service by dancing and singing in dramatic performances, but this Hiranyakashipu, by the influence of his bodily strength and valor, brought us under his subjugation. Now he has been brought to this low condition by your lordship. What benefit can result from the activities of such an upstart as Hiranyakashipu? Purport: by being a very obedient servant of the Supreme Lord, one becomes extremely powerful in bodily strength, influence, and effulgence, whereas the fate of demoniac upstarts is ultimately to fall down like Hiranyakashipu. Hiranyakashipu and persons like him may be very powerful for some time, but the obedient servants of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, like the demigods, remain powerful always. They are victorious over the influence of Hiranyakashipu by the grace of the Supreme Lord.
Text 51.
The inhabitants of the Charana planet said, O Lord, because you have destroyed the demon, Hiranyakashipu, who was always a stake in the hearts of all honest men, we are now relieved, and we eternally take shelter of your lotus feet, which award the conditioned soul liberation from materialistic contamination. Purport. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, in his transcendental form of Narahari, Nishingadev, is always ready to kill the demons, who always create disturbances in the minds of honest devotees. To spread the Krishna consciousness movement, devotees have to face many dangers and impediments all over the world, but a faithful servant who preaches with great devotion to the Lord must know that Lord Nishingadev is always his protector. Who preaches with great devotion to the Lord. That's interesting. It's actually kind of saying he's preaching to the Lord. I'd like to ask Dravida about that, if you don't mind. Could you make a note of that? And then say it to me, please. Text 52. The inhabitants of Yakshaloka prayed, O controller of the 24 elements, we are considered the best servants of your lordship because of rendering services pleasing to you. Yet we engaged as palanquin carriers by the order. of Hiranyakashipu, the son of Diti. O Lord, in the form of Sringadev, you know how this demon gave trouble to everyone, but now you have killed him, and his body is mixing with the 5 material elements. Purport. The Supreme Lord is the controller of the 10 senses, the 5 material elements, the 5 sense objects, the mind, the intelligence, the false ego, and the soul. Therefore he is addressed as Panchabhiksha, the 25th element. The inhabitants of the Yaksha planet are supposed to be the best of all servants, but Hiranyakashipu engaged them as palanquin carriers. The entire universe was in trouble because of Hiranyakashipu. But now that Hiranyakashipu's body was mixing with the 5 material elements, earth, water, fire, air, and sky, everyone felt relief. Upon Hiranyakashipu's death, the Yakshas were reinstated in their original service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus they felt obliged to the Lord and offered their prayers. Text 53. The inhabitants of Kim Purusha significant entities, and you are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Supreme Controller. Therefore, how can we offer suitable prayers unto you? When this demon was condemned by devotees because they were disgusted with him, he was then killed by you. Purport. The cause of the Supreme Lord's appearance upon this earth is stated in Bhagavad Gita 4, 7, and 8 by the Lord himself. Yada yada hi dharmasya namirvamati bharata abhyutanam dharmasya tadatmanam sujamyaham parijana sadhunam vinashaya chadushkitam dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge sambhavami yuge yuge sambhavami yuge yuge. Whenever and wherever there is decrease in religious principles and a predominant rise of irreligion, at that time I descend myself to deliver the pious and annihilate the miscreants, as well as to re-establish the principles of religion. I advent myself millennium after millennium. The Lord appears in order to execute 2 kinds of activities: to kill the demons and to protect the devotees. When the devotees are too disturbed by the demons, the Lord certainly appears in different incarnations to give the devotees protection. The devotees following in the footsteps of Prahlad Maharaj should not be disturbed by the demoniac activities of the non-devotees. Rather, they should stick to their principles as sincere servants of the Lord, and rest assured but the demoniac activities directed against them will not be able to stop their devotional service. Text 54. The inhabitants of Vaisesika Loka said, Dear Lord, because of chanting your spotless glories in great assemblies and arenas of sacrifice, we were accustomed to great respect from everyone. This demon, however, usurped that position. Now, to our great fortune, you have killed this great demon exactly as one cures chronic disease. What?
55.
I just scroll some out of the scroll. Kinners. The Kinners said, this isn't yours? Oh, it's only
Go right ahead.
The Kinners said, O Supreme Controller, we are ever-existing servants of your Lordship. But instead of rendering service to you, we were engaged by this demon in his service, constantly and without remuneration. This sinful man has now been killed by you. Therefore, O Lord Nrsimhadev, our Master, we offer our respectful obeisance unto you. Please continue to be our patron. Text 56. The associates of Lord Vishnu in Vaikuntha offered this prayer: O Lord, our supreme giver of shelter, today we have seen your wonderful form as Lord Nrsimhadev, meant for the good fortune of all the world. O Lord, we can understand that Hiranyakashipu was the same Jai who engaged in your service, but was cursed by Brahmanas, and who thus received the body of a demon. We understand that his having now been killed is your special mercy upon him. Purport. Hiranyakashipu's coming to this earth and acting as the Lord's enemy was prearranged. Jai and Vijay were cursed by the Brahmanas, Sanaka, Sanandana, Sanatana, and Sanat Kumara, because Jai and Vijay checked these four Kumaras. The Lord accepted this cursing of his servants and agreed that they would have to go to the material world and would then return to Vaikuntha after serving the term of the curse. Jai and Vijay were very much perturbed, but the Lord advised them to act as enemies, for then they would return after 3 births. Otherwise, ordinarily, they would have to take 7 births. With this authority, Jai and Vijay acted as the Lord's enemies, and now that these two were dead, all the Vishnudutas understood that the Lord's killing of Hiranyakashipu was special mercy bestowed upon them. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 7th canto, 8th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Lord Nrsimhadev slays the king of the demons.
Jai!
Tonight's reading of the Srimad Bhagavatam. We'll take it up again tomorrow at 3:30 p.m. as there are festivities tomorrow celebrating the disappearance day of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, starting at 9 a.m. in the Prasadam Hall. And then there'll be Prasadam Feast, and then we'll reconvene here. Thanks everyone for joining us online and from various places around the world, joining us here in the live studio audience. Gaur Premanande Haribo, Nitai Gaura Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo, Nitai Gaura Haribo, 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here.
Natari Armarman, Natari Armarman, Natari Armarman, Natari Armarman, hey, Natari Armarman, Natari Armarman, Natari Armarman, Natari Armarman.